The European drag racing season came to a very wet end this weekend at the Budweiser World Finals at Santopod Raceway, England. The last round of the European Top Alcohol Championships were to be held with Sweden's Mikael Kägerad leading the points so far, and Britain's Alan Jackson not far behind. The European Top Fuel Series was also to be run with Sweden's Viveca Eversted, along with Tommy Huppernen from Finland, chasing the 95 rookie driver from Denmark, Jens Nebo, for points. But drag racing cannot be run on a wet track, and the English skies opened up on Santopod all weekend and race was rained out. So the 1995 European Drag Race champions were crowned on points accrued before this race. So, coming up now, a retrospective look at the 1995 drag season and how the champs made it to the top. A look at the fastest top fuel run ever put down on a European track back at the main event at Santopod in May. We'll also be looking at the crash that put one of Britain's top runners out of the winner's circle in European Top Alcohol, back at the Summer Nationals at Santopod in August. The fastest side-by-side top fuel race ever recorded between Jens Nebo and Rico Antes in the final in Finland. And who finally clinched the top fuel and top alcohol championships for 1995. The first race of the year for the European Top Alcohol Championships was back at Santopod in England in Easter time. The 1994 champion Anita Michaela crashed in qualifying and was rushed to hospital with an injured foot, completely destroying her car. This then made way for Britain's Barry Sheevels, who took the #1 qualifying spot and put him right on top of the points table after rain stopped racing after the first round. Sheevels beat Leif Helander from Sweden in that race. So Helander is in the funny car. Believe it or not, this is a Saab replica running with a V8 alcohol burning engine. Barry Sheevels in the normal dragster. So they come up into stage. Of course, Sheevels really looking for major points here. He wants to be a force to be reckoned with in top alcohol, and indeed takes the win, 6.20 at 217 miles per hour. Sweden's Mikael Kägerad took third spot in the points after the rained-out Easter race in his Mustang-bodied funny car. And France's Bob Fieler took second place behind Sheevels, so a great start for Britain in top alcohol so far. The first round of the European Top Fuel Series began in spectacular fashion, with Viveca Eversted taking the #1 qualifying spot with a record-breaking run. So much has been promised from this lady, sponsored by Valvoline and running an ex-Joe Amato car with all the latest equipment on board. Was she going to produce the first ever 4-second run? And here she goes, absolutely charging the quarter mile. And indeed, the time comes up on the finishing gantry, 5.05, the quickest time we've ever seen in Europe. Well done to Viveca Eversted. She was, however, beaten in the semi-finals by Finland's Tommy Huppernen, Mr. Consistency, after dropping cylinders at half-track. Now, this was an occurrence which was to come to plague her at almost every race in the season. But there were two racers who marched on into the final. And this was on the first final in the European Tour. Mr. Consistency, Tommy Happonen, the Finn, who'd been running 540s all weekend, and the German, Rico Antes. Now, Rico was determined to beat Viveka Eversted to be the first 4-second runner in Europe. Both drivers came out. Smoky, heavy burnouts, absolutely loaded with nitromethane. And those burnouts, of course, as everybody now knows, determine the heat that's in the rear tyres, which of course also determines the amount of traction they get away from the start line. Everybody was watching this one, and Antes gets away first but explodes. Just look at that explosion there from Rico Antes. And Tommy Happonen, who'd only been brought into the final as the fastest loser, took the win. A very, very disappointed Rico Antes. Tommy Happonen running through with a 5.45. Now just watch the power of this explosion as this nitro burning engine just lets go. Total engine failure, and the fuel keeps getting pumped through and is lost in those huge flames. On-board fire extinguishers eventually put out the fire. So Tommy Happonen goes through to round 2 in Finland, his home country, in the #1 points position, and proved, as he continued to do throughout the season, that consistency in Top Fuel can win you a drag race. The main event race also showed us the first sign of brilliance from this man, the rookie in his first year of Top Fuel racing, Jens Nebo from Denmark. Now, Nebo actually knocked out Happonen in the first round. But new rules this season has meant that first round losers can come back in round 2 if a lack of cars in the field causes a bye run. Nebo is driving last year's champ Peter Lance's old car, the very same car which won the championship for Lance in 1994. A good omen perhaps, we'll see. Well, we move straight on with the next big race meeting of the year, an all funny car affair, where the American Harlan Thompson, sponsored by Budweiser, proved his domination over the ranks of the funny car drivers once more. Now, this man had won the Cannonball 5 times previously and was out to hook another one onto his belt. So this is the 3rd run. What happens in the Cannonball is all drivers drive 3/4 of a mile, and the quickest 2 over that first 3/4 then go on into a final to see who takes the Cannonball trophy. Well, Harlan on that run clicked off a 5.79, which definitely put him into the final. But there were still other drivers who had a chance of getting into that final. Here's Tony Baker. Tony Baker, a new man in funny car, running with an alcohol funny car. And indeed, in the Cannonball, we can mix all sorts of cars. Clive Michel with his fuel altered. Certainly a very futuristic looking machine, built around a fiberglass replica body of a 1923 Model T. It's called the Hot Rod from Hell, the California Kid. That's Clive Michel. Tony Baker, new man in the class with an alcohol burning funny car, looking for a good time, but still not enough on that run. A 7.93 for Tony Baker and a 7.24 for Clive Michel, not enough to get him into the final. John Spuffard, Great Britain's great hope, here performing the burnout alongside a returning driver into the world of Top Fuel funny car, Britain's Gary Page, driving for the Motorola team. Now, John Spuffard was currently sitting in the #2 spot and needed a good run here, but an engine explosion really puts him teetering on the brink of whether he's going to be in that final or not. He runs a 6.91. And just watch the force of that explosion. You can actually see the bodywork, the blower belt goes away and the bodywork pivots round the back. Now that sets up quite an interesting race between the 2 alcohol funny cars of this man, Michael Kagerad, and Switzerland's Urs Urbacher. Now one of these 2 can still get into that Cannonball final if they run 6.20 or less. Interesting stuff. Both of these cars quite capable of running at the bottom end of the 6-second bracket. A 6.0 isn't unknown for either Kagerad or Urbacher. But can they do it when they need it the most? Here we go. Don't forget, they're looking for 6.20 or less, and they're away together. These guys really are so close as they head towards the top end. Let's just have a look at that finishing gantry and see who gets there first. It is Michael Kagerad, 6.20. He did what was asked of him. So after 2 days of grueling racing, the two on top of the ladder were to race in the final. These were Harlan Thompson in the Dodge Daytona and Michael Kagerad in his Ford Mustang.
I've been clicking off early the whole day, taking it easy, running, 190, 200 miles an hour. But we've been doing it to be conservative, and I don't think you have to run that hard to win this event. And we're racing against the alcohol cars that are very conservative, and we're coming out with twice the horsepower. We have to be conservative to keep up with them. But I think we can step it up and run fast whenever we have to, and I think we got a real good chance to win it.
And the man who Harlan was to meet in the final, Michael Kagerad. Did he and Urs Erbacher know before they left the start line that if they ran a 6:20 or less, they would have knocked out John Spafford and made it into the final?
Yeah, they said to me, if you go 6:20, you are in the final. And when I come down, they said to me, you have gone 6:20 soon.
But once again, rain stopped play, and Harlan Thompson was awarded the Cannonball crown as he clocked the fastest times of the weekend. The next race of the year was a very different picture weather-wise, and round 2 of the European Top Fuel Series burns out in Alastaro, Finland, where a loose clutch connection puts Viveka Everstedt out again in the semi-final, and where Jens Nebo, the rookie from Denmark, stamps his authority firmly on European Top Fuel racing for the first time. All still to come after the break. Welcome back to Alastaro in Finland and our look back at the 1995 European drag season. Round 2 of Top Fuel took place here, around 100 miles southwest of Helsinki, on Europe's only purpose-built drag strip. Jens Nebo from Denmark became the #1 qualifier with an incredible 5.16 second run, setting a new track record. Rico Antes was there. His time, 5.29, got in the #2 qualifier, and this lady, Viveka Everstedt from Sweden, well, she qualified in the #3 spot with a time of 5.38. Tommy Haberden from Finland in the #4 spot with a 5.47. His chief own country rival was Risto Putiainen. He qualified #5 with a 5.57, driving Leif Berstadt's record-breaking dragster. But straight away, we join them in round 2 of this particular event, watching both of the drivers sitting there waiting for that run. This is the most worrying time for most of the drivers. They know they now have it all to do. They're handling 5,000 horsepower. Here they come through for the burnout. First of all, it's the German, Rico Antes. That's looking very, very strong indeed. And once more, Tommy Haberden comes in as a fastest loser from round 1. But this time, Rico Antes, although he goes up in smoke, makes no mistake, runs 5.24, takes the win to a claim from his crew, and a 5.38 lose-out to Tommy Haberden actually puts him on the trailer heading for home. Here's our next pair, Jens Nebo from Denmark. And he's up against the lady who's run the quickest ever time in Europe, Viveka Everstedt. But as they come up to race, Viveka has a real problem with a loose clutch, allowing this man a solo run, which is just as well. He goes up in smoke, crosses the centre line. You can't eliminate yourself on a bye run, so he is through into the final. And here we see Viveka being pushed away, a very, very unhappy lady. So we move into the final. Both of our drivers getting ready once more. Could it possibly be that the rookie driver Jens Nebo was going to win over the top of the experienced driver Rico Antes? Now, just before the two drivers ventured out onto the strip, a preceding vehicle had put a lot of oil down onto the tarmac. Now, this means, of course, that the hard-working crew have to clear all of that up, and it takes time. The oil has to be absorbed and removed from the track. What remains has then to be burnt off, and this is a trying time for the drivers and the crew alike. Rico sits quietly in the car. Jens, much more relaxed. He's out of the car, talking to his crew. Maybe this is the sign of what's coming up here. Certainly Rico's crew looking anything but happy with the delay. And Rico, as the time wears on, gets more and more anxious. Jens seems to relax more. So here they come for this final in Alastaro. And first with the burnout, the German Rico Antes. Looking very, very strong indeed. Then Jens Nebo. But I wonder whether that delay has caused Rico some problems. He was very, very keen to get in the car and run this race straight away. He's now been sitting there for some considerable time. Crew Chief Dale Denton takes Rico right up to the start line. Jens Nebo already there. Risto Putiainen looks on. And the green comes on, but Rico's already gone, despite the fact he runs a 5:16. Jens Nebo takes the win, much to the elation of the crew. Let's just watch this again. It is definitely Rico Antes who leaves the start line well before the green comes on. He gets a red light, automatically eliminated, and so maybe this is to be the start of Jens Nebo's rule of top fuel, and he just could not believe it. Well, we had just experienced the quickest side-by-side run in top fuel in Europe, but obviously all that waiting, Rico Antes strapped in his car. It was just too much for him. He just did not want to be interviewed. But how about this for joy? So the points then now look like this. Jens Nebo on top of the pile, Rico Antes in second spot, Tommy Happinen third. Well, this really was to be the start of Nebo's rule of top fuel, and he still could not believe it.
That's for sure. I can't explain it. That's great.
Did you see Rico pull a red light? Did you know, or did you just go for it?
No, I didn't know he pulled a red light. And when he come down here, one of the rescue members come and congratulate me, and I think, are you sure? Because he was first on the finish line.
Yeah, because like that's the closest top fuel final I've ever seen. 5:16, 5:17, unbelievable.
Yes, that was close, that's for sure.
Probably one of the closest races you'll ever be in.
I hope.
Wow, so no longer a rookie anymore.
No. No, I'll be there.
And be there he was, but at the next top fuel round at Mantorp Park in Sweden, he had some engine problems for the first time, and it was someone else's turn for glory. Vivica Eberstedt was the #1 qualifier on Saturday with a 5.24 second run. Sweden's Tony Brintenson was in the #2 spot with a 5.37 422 kilometers per hour run. Now this was his first time out racing this year, and bear in mind he won this event in 1994 at Mantorp Park. In the #3 spot, Tommy Happinen, 5.45. But at last it looked like Vivica Eberstedt in front of her home crowd was about to have some luck.
Okay, Vivica, you've done so well here in your home country. You've qualified #1 at Mantorp Park with a 5:24. You must be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I'm really happy because this is my home track, and last year we had so much unlucky, so I mean, I'm very happy.
Now you've got a bye run into the first round, so that's good for you because it gives you time to do a bit of testing and tuning. And
yeah, because we have our problem is that we have to back that off so much because not to smoke the tires or tire vibrations. So
now you told me you dropped a few cylinders yesterday in qualifying.
yeah, when we ran 5:24, we lost 1 cylinder the whole way. So it was not a perfect run, so I hope we can solve the problem today. Not in the first round, but of course in the second round.
So you may have a very long day of racing ahead of you.
Yeah.
Now this lady has run the fastest in Europe, a 5.05, but here at Mantorp, in front of her home crowd, the conditions are not really up to such fast runs. It's very hot. There's not a breath of air, and traction is really hard to find. Just a 60 foot here for Vivica to see if crew chief John Wright's combination will work for her in the next essential round. And this is it against Tommy Happinen from Finland. Now Happinen, as we found out through the course of the year, has become known as Mr. Consistency. And can Vivica overcome all of her problems and shut him down? Well, certainly she's away on a stormer. Right the way through, it is Vivica Eberstedt who takes the win and goes through into the final. Now this is Sweden's Tony Brintenson. He should have been racing in an all-Swedish affair against Peter Lantz. but Lance destroyed his engine in qualifying and did not make the race. So it was going to be Brintenson on a bye run through into the final against his fellow countrywoman Vivica Eversted. So Brintenson launches the car hard, checks out the time for the 60-foot mark, and then cruises through into the final against this lady, psyched up. Husband Hawken lifts her into this top fuel dragster. This is going to be a race to save her.
Have you ever raced Brintenson before in a final?
No, never.
He's a pretty tough guy to beat,
Yeah, I know
isn't he?
that. I know that.
Nerves and steel.
Yeah. And I tried when you stage procedure yesterday and today. Therefore, my reaction time was so bad. But I think I should go back to the normal routine.
Now, you also did a test run in that last run, a 60-foot, like you mentioned before. You were having problems. You dropped a couple of cylinders in the first round. Is everything going to plan now? It seemed to be a good run.
Yeah, I mean, the 525 it was a good run, but of course the top speed wasn't so good. But it's because I clicked off early, because this track is so short.
Well, Tony's having problems too, so you think you got a pretty good chance, I would say.
Oh, I really hope so. I really hope this is going to be my day.
Well, it would be her first final for a couple of years for Vivica as she comes out to meet Tony Brintenson in the final at Mantorp Park. Both drivers supremely confident of taking the win and of course both looking for the points in this heavily contested championship. Brintenson comes through, alongside him the Valvoline car of Vivica Eversted through the water to spin those rear tyres. A short, sharp burnout across the start line. The crew chiefs, of course, then bring the cars back onto the rubber strips that they've just laid down, looking for perfect traction for those 5,000 horsepower engines. Start line easing up into the light cells that control the start line sequence, and they're away together. But there's problems with Vivica. It's not going to be her day. Tony Brintenson takes the win, and his crew absolutely joyous. One show, one win. That's Tony B.
Tony, first win for you in a long time.
That's true. We won last year here at Mantorp against Peter Lance in the final. And now we decided we should run one race this year, and this was it.
That's the last we saw of Brintenson for the rest of the season. Nebo is still in the lead, but Vivica Eversted is just seconds behind him. The Fuelers' next stop on their European tour was Hockenheim, Germany. Stay with us. One of the biggest races in the European drag calendar is the Nitro Olympics in Hockenheim, Germany. The big news was the return of the European record holder Liv Berstadt from Norway. She qualified #1 and clocked the fastest kilometre per hour and ET of the session. Not bad for an 18-month break from racing to have a baby. Rico Antes was our #2 qualifier, running a 5:26 at 440 kilometres per hour alongside Jens Nebo, and Jens got the #3 spot with a 5:53. So, Nebo and Rico looking good, but not as good as this lady. Liv Berstadt making a welcome return to drag racing.
Liv Berstadt, you've been out of racing now for about a year and a half. You've come back so strongly, #1 qualifier, lowest ET so far, 5:17, and fastest top speed. That's amazing.
Yes, it is. I didn't expect this weekend, and no, it feels marvelous. I noticed that we was running very fast, and I sure noticed the top speed.
So you've got a bye run in the first round, which is a nice way to get through to the second round in competition.
Yes, and I need to run as much as I can, because I don't have all the routines in my body.
How about your reactions to the timing lights? Are they a bit slow coming back from so long?
A little bit slower, yes. Yeah. But I hope they come back.
Well, let's wait and see if what she says is true. Does she have a slow start line reaction? Don't forget, this lady has just given birth to her baby son, now back into the hot seat of one of these Top Fuel drag races, a 5:34, 400 kilometres per hour, and a slow reaction time, 0.597. She went up in smoke at the top end, presumably just a little bit too much power. Here's our next pair, getting the order to fire up Tommy Happonen, the SO Ultron man, and he's up against Vivica Eversted. Vivica looking for a good run in the Valvoline car. These were the 4th and 5th qualifiers, and of course Tommy Happonen continues to run those consistent 5.40s. So it was Sweden against Finland, and once again the Gremlins get the Valvoline car. It's Tommy Happonen who takes the win, 5.54. Vivica is just not having good luck. Now, this was a race. Peter Lantz, the 1994 champion, the teacher, against Jens Nebo, his student. Who was to win? Experience usually does in drag racing, but Jens has had a storming rookie season so far. And look at this, Lantz goes up in smoke, Jens Nebo takes the win, 5.25. Hey, this guy is doing so good in 1995. That was a really close race. Andy Carter from Great Britain up against Rico Antes from Germany. And this was to be the slowest race of side-by-side Top Fuel action, with Rico Antes taking the win after Andy Carter broke a camshaft and bent a push rod. And just look at the win time for Rico Antes. 13.5 seconds in Top Fuel. The crew absolutely mystified. They just don't understand what went on there. And it was lucky for Rico that Andy Carter broke also. Well, we move into round 2. And this puts Tommy Happonen from Finland against Liv Berstad. Well, Liv from Norway has never, ever raced Tommy Happonen before. Now, Tommy had come into Top Fuel while Liv was away having the child. So they're unknown quantities to one another. Tommy, of course, relying on his consistency in the SO Ultron car, and Liv really on top form here this weekend in the Mac Tools Motorola-sponsored machine. So, is this going to be experience telling over the rookie? We'll have to wait and see. Certainly, Liv has already told us that she is not experienced, or hasn't got the experience back once more, for the start line reaction. And this is all important in Top Fuel. These cars accelerate up to 100 miles per hour in under a second. And you want to get to 100 miles per hour before the person in the opposing lane. So it's Finland against Norway. All eyes on these two cars in the centre of the track here at Hockenheim. Can Liv Berstad make it a huge return and get through into the final? Here we go, moving up into the staging beam. The green comes on, and it's Liv Berstad all the way, Happonen chasing. He runs back in his consistent times, but it is Liv Berstad who takes the win, 5.18, and Tommy loses out with a 5.67.
Okay, Liv, now you're not somebody now that we know who takes things easily when you're breaking into a new competition after so long. 5.18, and now you're into a final, your first one for I'm almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm very excited over it, and this run was very good because the 2 earlier runs we had a lot of tire shake, and I didn't feel that I have the totally control. But now I'm feeling I'm controlling the car again.
And you couldn't complain about that reaction time either on that run. You were away so quickly.
I can't complain.
But looking at the sky, you mightn't have your chance.
Oh, I hope this go away because I want to win.
Well, the winner of this next semi would meet Liv in the final. Rico Antes, the man from Germany, here on his home turf. Will he have the crowd with him enough to overcome this man, the rising star? Hey, he's not just a rising star, he is a star. This is Jens Nebo from Denmark. Can Rico Antes overcome the winning form of this young man? And remember what happened the last time these two met in Finland. It was this young man who made Rico, psyched him out, so he made a red light come on the tree and automatically eliminated himself. Well, certainly the nerves don't seem to be playing a major problem here this weekend. The two drivers shake hands and Rico peers intently out of his crash helmet at Jens Nebo's qualifying times. Formulating a plan, Vivica Eversted looks on, quite happy to be out of competition, and watches the two drivers getting prepared for their run. Both drivers getting strapped in. This is Rico Antes. Paul Berry, his American co-crew chief, just making sure those arm restraints are in place. And this is Jens Nebo, looking cool, calm and collected. And the battle of the continents, really, because Germany's Rico Antes drives an all-American constructed car. Jens Nebo's machine, of course, put together by Sweden's Peter Lantz. So the two continents go head-to-head in this semi-final. The crew, get ready, fire the engine up. Here comes Jens Nebo through the water for the burnout. And joined by Rico Antes. Well, Antes, of course, here looking for a place in the final in front of his home crowd, not wishing to give in to the rookie driver at all. Once again, we get a good shot of the crew bringing the car back onto the start line. And how meticulous they are. They want those tyres back on those rubber strips again. They are looking for traction. They are looking for good start line reaction. A perfect start line reaction here in top fuel is 0.4 of a second. And you need perfect grip, tyres to ground to get that reaction time. Here we go. Jens Nebo in the yellow dragster. Antes just making his way in. And problems for Rico. He breaks on the start line. Jens Nebo takes the win, 5.25. He is really on a roll in 1995. Let's just watch and see what happens. They're away from the start line, and then that big explosion out of Rico's engine. The burst plate goes on the front of his supercharger, and that puts him out of competition. Jens Nebo goes through and takes the win. And an incredible time as well for Jens Nebo, 5.25. He is in the final. Well, what a job he's got ahead of him now. Leave Berstadt to race.
Jens, another amazing result for you.
Yeah.
Straight into the final again.
Yeah.
Last race did repeat of the final in Finland, which you won, and you beat him again. Rico Antes is not going to be a happy man.
No, no way.
But you're grinning.
Yeah, I am. I'm so happy.
So many good wins today.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Now this next race, if it happens, because the sky's looking pretty ominous, is not going to be so easy.
No, I don't think so, but give it a try and do our best and hope that we will do well.
Also competing at Hockenheim were the European Top Alcohol Championships. It was their third round in the Tour. Bob Fieler, the Flying Frenchman, was the #1 qualifier with a storming 6.12. Bob races quite an unusual setup in his machine, an Arias powerboat engine. But it certainly seems to work, and 1995 has been a good year for the Flying Frenchman. Now, the only problem that this man has, who is sponsored by the city of Paris, is his start line reactions. He pulls a lot of red lights. Just 0.02 of a second behind Fieler was Michael Kagau from Sweden, currently #2 into the points going into this round. A problematic qualifying session for the defending champ, Finland's Anita Mäkelä, who took the #3 qualifying spot.
Anita Mäkelä, European champion of 1994, back in Hockenheim. Now this is your second race since you've been back with your foot injury. Now you've qualified #3 position, but a few problems.
I mean, we have had a lot of problems during this weekend. Tire shakes, I can't get the gears in like I should. So, well, let's see. I hope that boys can work out all those problems, and I really count on my crew, but, you know,
let's hope all the best.
Now, Peter Beck's not going to make it to the first round. He broke in qualifying, so you've got a bye run into the next round against Peter Cruz.
That's right. We're having the bye run so we can test something new, and let's hope that we can get rid of the problems. And then it's Peter Cruz coming, and then we need to go fast as possible way.
Okay, good luck, Anita.
Thank you, I really need that.
So a solo run for Anita, who's running down in 12th position in the points after her foot injury back at the first meeting of the season in April kept her out of racing until the last meeting in Mantle. And here at Hockenheim, problems with the gear shift saw her go out in the next round. So we move straight on into the semi-finals of Top Alcohol. And the start line crew waiting for the next pair of cars to come through. Britain's Barry Sheevels has made it into the semis where he meets Bob Fieler, the Frenchman. Now, bearing in mind that Barry is excellent on start line, Bob Fieler still really feeling his way into the racing world of Top Alcohol. So, in Germany, we've got a Frenchman against an Englishman. Both of these men looking for points in the championship, and certainly Sheevels is looking good for 1995. Now just watch this start line, and it is Sheevels who pulls an amazing hole shot over Bob Fieler. He gets out of the starting traps first, runs with a slower time, 6.14, but takes the win. That start line reaction of his got him the win, even though Bob Fieler ran the quicker time of 6.12. The Brits celebrate big time. This is Peter Cruz. He's driving his funny car, he's German, in front of his home crowd, and he's never got this far in European competition before. He's just beaten Anita Michaela to get through to race Michael Kagarad with the green Ford Mustang. This could well be his dream come true. The crew let that bodywork down, but certainly he's a little bit late coming out for the burnout. And immediately they put that bodywork down. Up comes the escape hatch. Problems there for Peter Cruz. What a great, great shame. It's Michael Kagarad on his own. And Kagarad pulls a red light. Well, that upsets Peter Cruz's team, because he would have thought if he'd have raced Kagarad, he would have beaten him on that red light default. So Barry Sheevels was to meet Michael Kagarad in the final, but rain struck again, and both finals in Top Alcohol and Top Fuel were cancelled. So the points as they stood after Hockenheim looked like this. Anita Michaela, last year's champ, way down in the points and makes a huge bid to retain her crown in the next round at Santa Pod. With only one round to go for the Top Fuelers, Jens Nebo, the rookie, was already years ahead. Next race of the European drag season was the fourth Top Alcohol round at Santa Pod, coming up after the break. The next race of the season in the European Top Alcohol Championships was at Santa Pod, and this was a disastrous rerun of that Hockenheim final between Britain's Barry Sheevels and Sweden's Michael Kagarad, previously cancelled by rain at the last round in Hockenheim, Germany. Both of these drivers looking for points here this weekend, both looking for that win in Hockenheim. But there has been an occasional rain shower here at Santa Pod. Now the problem with any airstrip, which of course is what Santa Pod originally was, is that they're very, very long, and what happens 3/4 of a mile away at the end of the racetrack may not be going on the start line. Now the chief starter holds them on the start line for a second because he can feel a few spots of rain, and then says, yes, okay, it's safe, off you go. So Barry Sheevels just going into stage, he pulls out of the starting line first and then goes right out of shape, crashes into the barrier. Michael Kagarad also crosses that centre line, gets a shootout, no damage to his car, but certainly for Barry Sheevels, the car is very badly damaged, and he is not going to be very happy about that.
Barry, I don't know what to say.
No, do I really. I don't think we're in contention for the European Championship anymore. I think we've damaged the car quite badly, really. Just one of those very unfortunate things. I didn't think they were going to let us run because there was rain coming down on the car and there was rain on the visor. And then when I did a burnout, I didn't seem to see much rain, but car launched really hard, and it felt as if it was really going. And I shifted into second gear at about 9,500 revs, and instantly the car turned, which is not that unusual really. So I tried to drive through that one, and then I must have hit what was a mid-damp track, because Mickey had problems in the other lane. Apparently he crossed the centre line, and I was having all sorts of problems. I thought I got it back on the groove, but I hadn't, and well, your life flashed before my eyes and into the barrier. There's no way I could keep it out of the barrier. And unfortunately, it's taken the left-hand side of the car, and it's taken the axle and the lane code. And I think probably breaking the lane code didn't help getting oil onto the back slick. And it's just a real crying shame, because it's a long time since we've had a European or British European champion, and we were in there, and we were fighting all the way, and yeah, it's quite sad really.
A devastating blow to the British influence in the European Top Alcohol Championship. Barry was in second position behind Michael Kagerad in points going into this round. And now he's left a big gap for Anita Michaela from Finland, who's the defending champion. She's qualified here in the #1 position with a hard-to-beat 5.98 second run earlier in the weekend. Last time in England, it was Anita who crashed into the barrier during qualifying, and a bad foot injury has put her out of racing for 2 meetings. Now Barry's out, she's got a chance to keep the title out of Michael Kagerad's hands. She's made it right through to the final in this round against the points leader so far, Michael Kagerad from Sweden. Both cars coming back behind the start line once more. The classic race, male against female, funny car against dragster, Sweden against Finland. Both drivers supremely confident, both electric on their start line reactions, and it's Kagerad who gets the whole shot, but it's Anita who drives past him, takes the win. Anita Michaela, 5.92. What a tremendous run from this lady, 234 miles per hour.
Anita, that's not very fair of you to do that in a final.
Well, that was a run. It was flying almost, you know. I was feeling the top speed. Oh dear me, now I'm going, and well, it was really enjoyable run.
Well, after that particular outing, Michael Kagerad still sits on top of the points. From Great Britain, Alan Jackson in second spot, and Anita now in third spot. Which brings us up to the last race of the season, the World Finals, which, as you know, were rained out. But not before some pretty spectacular but not so eventful night qualifying from the top fuelers. It was so cold and the air was so damp, no traction could be found, and everybody went up in smoke. The Top Alcohol Championship managed to get one qualifier in before the race was cancelled. And Barry Sheevels managed to rebuild his car after that horrendous crash and would have met Mickey Kagerad, the points leader, in the first round. If beaten, Mickey would have lost his chance to win the championship outright. But fate favoured Mickey and the rain came down and scuppered Sheevels' chances of keeping Kagerad out of the winner's circle. As points leader into this round, Sweden's Michael Kagerad was crowned the European champion for 1995 for the second time in his life.
Mickey Kagerad, 1995 champion. Now it's the second time you've been European champion, so a very good result for you.
Yes, I'm very happy, and I'm very happy for my team. They have been an excellent job, and also for my sponsor, Quick State.
Now, it hasn't been a really easy year for you this year, has it?
No, but we have been in the finals in all the rounds except this one. This was rain off, and but it has been a very good year anyway for us.
Now, this race would have been a very tricky one if it had have run for you, because you're not miles ahead in points, and if you had have been beaten in the first round or second round, Alan Jackson, the Englishman, may have overtaken you and won the championship.
Oh yeah, Alan Jackson and Anita and Barry Sheevels have could be overtaken it, so it has been very hard.
And so, after a rain-plagued season, Jens Nebo wins the 1995 European Top Fuel Series with the Finn Tommy Happinen in second place and Sweden's Vivica Avestedt in third.
Jens Nebo, 1995 champion and your first year ever in Top Fuel. What an achievement for you.
That's incredible. I can't understand it right now, but it's incredible.
Now, your lead was about 475 points. That's an enormous lead as well.
Yeah, but we have been lucky at 2 races and lucky today. It's raining, so that's the difference.
As he always says, for sure, Jens Nebo for sure is on top of the pile. He takes the win from Tommy Happinen, Vivica Avestedt, Rico Antes and Liv Berstadt. They're the top 5 as we look forward to 1996. Michael Cagrad from Alan Jackson, Anita Michaela and the Briton Barry Sheevels in 4th spot. The end of a wet but wild year in European drag racing. Hope you've enjoyed it.